Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Royalty Cut here, and in today's tutorial I'll be taking you through the pattern drafting of this beautiful A-line long skirt that you see over here with front slits. If this is a video you're interested in, please watch to the end, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also turn on your notification bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. So basically, for the pattern drafting, definitely you'll be needing your pattern paper, which is what I have here. So I went ahead to fold my pattern paper into two. So this pattern paper you see over here is on fold, just like you see over here. And this folded edge is where our measurement will be starting from. So my pattern paper wasn't long enough, so I just went ahead to join it. So if you have yours to be long enough, then you can work with it. Or if you're working on your main fabric, just go ahead and fold it into two. So just like I said, it's folded into two. Now the next thing we are going to go ahead and do right now is to get the full length of our skirt. Now remember that this skirt will be having a 2-inch band at the waist area, so I'm going to be subtracting 2 inches away from the full length. And for the full length of my skirt, I am working with the length of 43 inches. So I subtracted 2 inches already, so I'm just going to go ahead and mark 43 inches at this point, and I'll go ahead and extend it. So at this point, after marking the full length of the skirt at this point, now I want to help you know the amount of fabric that you need to be folding with. So for the folding, if you're working directly on your fabric, just go ahead and divide your round hip measurement into 4. So the round hip that I'm working with for this tutorial is 42 inches. 42 inches divided by 4 is 10.5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the 10.5. I don't know if you can see. Then I'll go ahead to add extra 4 inches to it, plus 1 inch for the seam allowance, making it 5 inches allowance. So for the folding of your main fabric, add 5 inches to your round hip measurement divided by 4. So that is what you should be folding if you're working on your main fabric. So let's just go ahead and start with the drafting. So remember, we subtracted 2 inches away from our skirt length. Now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is to place the 2 inch also at this point that we have our waistline, because the tip of this paper will be serving as our waistline. So I'm going to go ahead and place it as our waistline and mark my hip length. So the hip length that I'm working with is 10 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark 10 inches all the way down to the end of this pattern paper that I have here. So at this point, after marking the hip length that I have here, which is 10 inches, now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do right now is to mark my knee length. And the knee length that I'm working with is 16 inches. So remember to also place your -2 for your band and mark your knee length. So for me, the knee length is 23 inches that I'm working with. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark 23 inches at this point and extend the line. So at this point, after marking my knee length, although we will not be using the knee length measurement, but we have to impute it because we are making a skirt. So at the waist length, I'm going to be dividing my round waist measurement, which is 32 inches, into 4, and it's 8.25. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark 8.25. So from this folded edge that I have here, I'm going to go ahead and impute 8.25 at this point. I don't know if you can see. I'll impute 8.25, and I'll go ahead and add 1 inch for the dart. Then after adding the 1 inch, I'll now go ahead and add seam allowance to it. So for the purpose of this tutorial, let's just make use of the inch of 2 inches seam allowance. Now you can choose to use any other inches that you want to make use of. So for me, I added 2 inch allowance plus the 1 inch for the dart. So I'm going to go over to the hip length that we have here. Divide your round hip measurement into 4, which is, I'm working with 42 inches. So 42 inches divided by 4 is 10.5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 10.5 at this point. I will not be adding any dart inch to it because the dart won't be reaching at the hip length. So I'm going to just go ahead and add only 2 inch for the seam allowance. And this is it. Now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is to use my ruler to connect from this waist length all the way down to the hip length in a curving way, just like you see me do over here. I don't know if you can see. Now, after connecting it, this is what we have here. Now, the next thing I'm just going to go ahead and do is to connect from this hip length measurement that we have here all the way down to the full length. Now, for the full length, remember I told you what to fold with. I told you to fold with your round hip measurement divided by 4 plus 5 inch. So mine at this point is 15.5 inch. So I went ahead to mark 15.5 inch, which is this border that I marked at this point. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is to use a straight ruler to connect from this hip length that you see here all the way down to the full length of this our skirt. So at this point, after connecting it, this is what we have here. I don't know if you can see. We have this long pattern of it. Now for the dart part of this skirt, from this folded edge, I'm just going to go ahead and measure my nipple to nipple measurement. Now go ahead and measure yours. So for me, mine is 8 inches. So from this folded edge, I'll divide the 8 inches into 2, being 4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 4 inches at this point, and I'll be extending the line all the way down to the hip length measurement, just like you see me do over here. And I'll be using my ruler to connect it in a straight line. Now, after connecting the lines together, I'm going to go ahead and go in and out from this line that we have here by 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark 1/2 inch on both sides of this line that we marked here. So after marking the 1/2 inch, I'm going to be connecting it inwards to this point. You know the way you do your normal dart, so that's just the way I'm doing this. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect this dart into it, just like you see me do over here. So after connecting the dart, this is what we have here. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do right now is to cut this pattern paper out. Now I'm going to be cutting the sides and also the full length of this pattern paper. After cutting out the pattern paper of this skirt, as you can see, this is what it is looking like already. Our skirt is already into shape. Now the next thing we are going to go ahead and do right now is to get the slit of this skirt. Now remember that the backs of this skirt will be having a zipper. So let me just show you the method to use this pattern paper to cut your back piece. So for your back piece, after folding your fabric into 2, before you place your front pattern paper on your back piece, just go ahead and measure 1 inch at this center part that you have here, just the normal way you cut your skirt. So just go ahead and measure out 1 inch before placing your front piece on it. Then after which you just slit the center part and notch this zipper area, and that is that for the back piece. So for the front piece, let's go ahead and work on the slit. Now remember, we have a dart at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and open up this skirt. If you're working with your main fabric, just go ahead to and open it up, just like you see me do over here. Now I opened it up here, and this line we have here is serving as the center of our skirt. Now you're going to determine which side you want your slit to be, whether from the right part or at the left part. So for me, I'll be working with this point that I marked mine. So what I'm going to go ahead and to measure the 4 inch that we have from our nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is what we have for our dart at our waistline. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure it all the way down to the full length of our skirt, and I'll also go ahead and connect it. Now after connecting it, just like you can see here, the next thing I'm just going to go ahead and do at this point is to go ahead and use my scissors to slit open from this line that I marked our 4 inch all the way down to the waist length that we have at the upper body, just like you see me do over here. So after slit opening it, I also went ahead to cut up that 1/2 inch that we have at both sides of this dress. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove it, just like you see over here. So opening it up, as you can see, our skirt is now into 2 separate pieces, just like you see over here. So the next thing we are going to go ahead and do right now is to work on the slit part of this skirt. So if you're working with your pattern paper while placing it directly on your skirt, just make sure you add about half of an inch at this slit open part of it for the joining of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this right side facing each other this way. So for the slit pattern of this skirt, I want my skirt slit to be 5 inches above my knee length. Now remember that the knee length I'm working with is 25 inches, so I measured 5 inches upward, which is 20 inches, and that is what I went ahead to mark here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is to use about half of an inch from the waist length that you see over here. I'll sew with half of an inch all the way down to this point that I marked 5 inches above my knee length, and that is where I'll be stopping. So after that, I'll just go ahead and open it up, and voila, you will have your slit at the end part of it. So that is that for the slit pattern of our skirt. So if you want another visible dart for your skirt, just go ahead and measure your nipple to nipple measurement from this center part of the other skirt this way and add your dart measurement. So let me just show you if you want another visible dart. So I'm going to be adding 4 inch here, starting from that center point. Mark it all the way down to your hip length, which is 10 inches that I marked, and just go ahead to use about half of an inch from both sides, just like you can see here. Take half of an inch from both sides and join it back into that point, and your visible dart will be ready for this other part of the skirt. But if you don't want to add a dart for this other part of the skirt, it's still okay. Your skirt will just go out coming out nice. But if you want it visible, just go ahead and do the same thing for this. And that basically will be the end of this A-line tutorial skirt with front slit. Please don't forget to like our video and also turn on your notification bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. See you in our next video. Bye.